Australia, and welcome to this bumper edition of The BAP. My name is Franco. Joining me, Dean, who I'm pointing at, Jason, who I'm pointing at.
Excellent radio.
And why am I calling this a bumper issue? Well, I'm trying to set a challenge for myself because I have very minimal prep, but if I say it, maybe it will come. Field of Dreams style.
Right, maybe. Maybe that's what'll happen. I'm not convinced that zero prep leads to... Like, if you were taking an exam in high school and you had done no study, do you think you would stay in the room longer or shorter than those who had studied?
Well, I'd like to think future me could go back to past me and say big bullet style.
Right.
Proclaim to the class and to the teacher that I'm rolling in, I'm prepped, and going to blitz.
And blitzing it.
Whether I
Okay.
deliver on that promise
I
is
don't know.
another
Yeah,
thing.
maybe. I mean, you are building the expectation. Maybe it will come.
So, gentlemen, we're in the douchebag filter phase of today's bumper edition.
Which is going to be made slightly difficult for... We had an agreement to watch Clever Man.
Dean hasn't done his
I
homework.
haven't done that part of the prep, but making the commitment Franco was making, I'm just going to blitz through
You're gonna
having
big
not
ball it.
seen it. I'm being big balls.
You're going to make some comments,
Yeah.
draw some conclusions.
How good was that scene? You know, the one with the guy in the pants.
So, Clever Man, episode 2.
It was both
What
clever
are you doing,
and
Franco?
mannish.
You're looking a
I'm
little...
still confirming that we are actually broadcasting live. Yes, I've got a little thingy
Okay.
peering up. Yes. So,
Bumper edition with confirmation of live broadcastiness.
okay, so yes, 2/3 of the show did watch Clever Man episode 2, entitled Containment. So not a lot particularly happened in this episode.
I felt the same way.
More of a consolidation of points they sort of brought up in the first issue, which was a bumper episode. I'm really going all out with the word bumper.
You were liking bumper.
So they're really giving a bit more context to some of the ideas they
Bit of
brought up.
backstory.
Yep. No, I like the
Definitely
way
picked
they
up
sort
on
of
that
peeled off the
backstory.
layers of the onion a little bit.
Definitely
to dig
picked
a
up on
little
that
deeper
backstory.
and show you a little more nuance to the characters.
So we got to see a bit more of... is it a prison? Is it an internment
Some
camp?
kind of,
I was
a
wondering
black
the
site.
Same thing, yeah.
It's a bit of a black site because they...
Racist. So,
Well, no, it would be racist if I said it was a hairy site.
oh, okay. That would be speciest.
So at the camp, I'm going to call it camp, we had...
Camp sounds fun.
Bundy, who is the father of the Harry. So in the first episode, we saw a family of Harrys being extricated from the zone.
Dragged away.
And they were taken... No, they weren't dragged away.
They were eventually dragged away.
Yeah, they were. So they got set up in an apartment. Our anti-hero, Cohen, had dobbed them into the cops to get a
Shit
reward.
bloke, Cohen.
And so
Yeah,
this
shit
is
bloke.
how the family ended up. Well, most of the family.
Most of the family. One's still on the loose.
One was
One's
shot.
dead.
And one's dead, yes.
So we saw Bundy and Djukara going
Djukara,
through the
yeah.
psychological and physical torture of the prison guards, and the sort of how the prison guards are trying to break down the son Djukara.
Yeah, and he's definitely... He's not breaking down, although they do find a way to get him to toe the line a little bit in the end. But
You know, there's bits that are done well in the show and bits that aren't done well. The parts they do well, which really concerns me, is they've got the racism down really well. The abuse.
a lot of practice,
Really-
Franco.
Yeah.
No, they've got a fairly strong pool to draw from of racist white individuals.
Maybe they were method actors.
Yeah,
And it
you-
concerns me that these prison guards aren't famous actors. It seems like they didn't really have to look hard to find people that could do the job well. I'm not suggesting those actors are racist
course
by any
not.
means, but
of course not, Franco.
it's
It sounded a little like you were.
they seem
But-
to,
On this bumper issue of the BAP,
I was convinced.
Frank accuses actors of
I
being
don't
racist.
think anyone in Australia has could go through life without having witnessed some of these some of the vernacular, some of the attitudes around. You're definitely well versed in the basics of racism simply by existing in Australia.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to embark on a 6-month sabbatical to learn how to be a racist if you've grown up in Australia. You've pretty much been surrounded by the casual
You
racism.
could go down the pub on a Friday night and you probably
Plenty
just
of racist basic bitches.
So I felt that was a really well done scene, that whole what's going on at camp, except for one part. So when they went over to the mother, whose name is, I will find it here, Araluan.
Araluan, yeah.
So something's going on there. She was in a lineup with 2 other hairy women, and volunteered to go somewhere where we don't know. But the other 2 women were shot on the spot, which makes me ask, why aren't the men just being shot on the spot?
Well, that's why. Because I must admit, I went and had a look at another review because I watched this at the beginning of the week, and I went and looked at another review, or another recap. And they started calling that a black site specifically because it was obviously people were just being disappeared there. So those hairy women effectively disappeared. They were shot. They're gone.
But the point is, they dispatched the 2 women so quickly. So why bother even wasting your time guarding the men?
It's not. Yeah, it's not like they knew anything in specific except for that. Except that woman had turned up looking for a volunteer in scary quotes. And Araluan volunteered, and we still have no idea, except she was drugged and then woke up at the end of the episode.
So she's woken up and returned back to the city, or I presume Sydney. So she's there. She's in a room which seemingly she can't get out of. There's seemingly nice clothes around.
Yeah.
I think her nails have been filed down.
And I don't know if she was shaved. I mean, that's a common thing they're doing with hairies to pass in regular society. Yeah, so there's a bit of a mystery there. There are a couple other interesting things that came up, which one I didn't actually, I've still got no idea about, was our friend Slade, Jorah the Explorer.
So Jorah Mormont.
Yeah.
Who for me, he's typecast.
He has
Lord Friendzone.
Yeah, so he's made some kind of passing comment to assembling an arc.
Yes.
What's this about?
That was a real slap in the chops, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, see, what he's probably trying to do is enforce a situation where there's one man, one woman. He can't possibly be friend-zoned.
Okay.
And he can break the typecast.
Well done, Dean.
Yeah.
Actually, that is currently the top
leading theory?
The leading theory, absolutely. Because we
That's
don't
what
know.
I thought when I didn't watch the episode.
We don't know, but knowing Jorah from other TV shows, that is definitely the leading theory. He's going to reduce the options to just him.
Yes, I did have that mentioned. That was interesting to see where that goes. I mean, he has been doing some. So Slade, I believe that's his name.
That's
Garrett Slade is the owner of the TV station, but he's also been making side deals with, I believe, Jimmy. Uncle Jimmy, is that his name?
Oh, Uncle Jimmy, yeah, that's right.
Former clever man.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some connection there, which we still don't quite understand what their connection was, but there's some connection there.
Maybe they were both friend-zoned.
they started their own
they were like, well, friend-zone's support group.
The other thing we got a bit of Cohen backstory.
Yes.
Where there's a bit of a flashback to him being bullied by his brother.
Yep.
And apparently they don't have the same mother.
You knew that from the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't pick that up in the first one.
The first episode.
Having not seen the second episode, I knew that.
Okay.
They were half
So
brothers.
his brother's bullying him, calling him a coconut. You know,
'cause
white on the inside, brown on the outside.
Well, also his mother was white.
Yes.
Cohen's half caste.
I understood that bit, but I didn't realise they actually had separate. They had a separate mother, different mothers. So there's a bit
As
of
an
backstory.
aside, coconuts are delicious. I feel like that's not really much of an insult.
Well, it depends on your perspective,
Well, I'm just saying.
and also depending on who's giving it. Who's
if
calling-
someone's like, "You're such a coconut," I'd be like, "Thank you." Coconuts are delicious.
You are so delicious.
And the water from inside can be used in place of blood in an emergency transfusion. I am very useful.
That sounds like something a cracker would say.
Yeah. And then there was an interesting.
You should be a guard, Frank.
There was an interesting media debate scene between Waru and Immigration Minister Jeff Matthews.
Yes, there was.
Jeff Matthews, where they were talking about their $107 billion containment and resettlement program. God, this language sounds so familiar. Maybe
Really
not
does.
100. Was it? But the numbers are a little bit more
Aside from it being
inflated.
onshore.
That's right.
So that was a very topical debate that they were having in the studio.
And so, once again, because we didn't really get any answers, there was just a bit of sort of backstory in this one, and the episode kind of finished with a daring rescue from a mysterious lab.
Yes, so Cohen, the hero, the clever man, had been hearing voices from a woman.
Was this the woman who woke up on a slab?
On
Yes.
a slab, yes.
So they made a daring bust out of her.
I almost feel like I didn't miss anything.
Not really.
No,
I'm still going to watch it because it was good, the first episode. But
we've probably given you the salient points. So there was not a huge amount of plot development, but except for probably this bit where they rescue someone, but you have no idea what
There's no
who she is or why.
story
Who or why.
spoilers at the moment.
Yeah.
It's more further detailing of the
Everything
those
is
story
just
threads.
hints and mysteries and
Yeah.
further mysteries. Yeah.
Well, I got the feeling with the plot, they had a lot of story points they were trying to sort of kick off.
Yeah.
And then this is probably just rounding it out to give you a bit more detail.
One thing that was interesting was, which I didn't get from the first episode, I was trying to figure out in the world they're setting up with Clever Man whether Aboriginals had been as mistreated by white colonials as the real world. Whereas in the first episode, they hadn't really said anything about that. But in the second episode, no, it happened. It's essentially the same kind of world. And the other thing that came up is Harry's have only become apparent within the last 6 months.
Well, they've always been there, but they've only been known.
In the last
They've come
6
out
months.
of the shadows for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
so I don't know. That seems pretty interesting to me about why they've come out of the shadows at this point. And another reason, another thing is how they managed to stay in the shadows for so bloody long. Just more mysteries this episode.
Yes.
Still got me interested. I'll be watching. I've been making sure I don't
You
get
get a bit
ahead
of
of
a
my...
hankering to get ahead as well.
Well, this is
You've
not
done
how...
well to resist.
I don't watch episodes one by one. I
No,
tend
I
to
understand.
binge.
I binge watch as well when I watch.
I want answers immediately. That's what I want.
On another note, not necessarily story-wise, but I'm still enjoying the positive portrayal of Aboriginal characters and Aboriginal characters being lead characters in the TV show. So, you have Cohen talking the story about his father went to university. He's sipping on red wine. They're not using stereotypes to portray Aboriginal characters, although one might be saying, so they're sort of conforming to Western stereotypes or Western ideals of how people should behave. So I don't know what my thoughts should be on that necessarily.
Well, let's just call it interesting for now and see where it develops.
On that point, last week I also watched another movie called Mystery Road, which had an Aboriginal lead character playing a detective in a country town investigating murders of
There's been
Indigenous
plenty of
women.
Indigenous people on cop shows on TV.
This was a movie where he's the lead character, and it's a beginning of a series because there's another movie that's coming out where it's the same character reprising his role in another town kind of thing.
Is he like Dirty Harry type, or is he more of a Morgan Freeman in Seven type?
I would say I'm not sure either of those comparisons really work with him. He's coming into a town and he's discovering that something's been going on. Like Indigenous girls have been getting killed. It turns out they may have been getting killed for some time.
Right.
And he's looking into reasons why. And there's various sort of
Well,
organised crime
I
sort
tell
of
you
angles
what, I can
happening
tell
in
for you right now, it was the Harrys, Jason. So something needs to be done about them. We need a containment program.
But what it did culminate with is a really quite a well done sniper fight in the outback where one organised crime guy who doubles as a roof shooter is off in the distance and they're taking pot shots at each other with long rifles at great distances. It was pretty good. It was pretty well done actually.
Full on.
And who was the other? There was another major Australian actor in there. Oh, I can't remember at the moment. Anyway, it's a good movie worth checking out. Mystery Road. No, not Paul Hogan.
That's a shame.
Not Paul Hogan.
He doesn't do enough.
Okay, so
More Hogan.
So it's a good solid episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll be watching the other one tomorrow. No, probably not tomorrow actually. I'll be busy tomorrow.
No. Tomorrow is the Queen's birthday, Jason. Is it Queen's birthday?
And we will be
Is that what
honouring
is?
it all day, won't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to decide who is the Galactic Queen.
Yes. I guess the other TV series, which and this time Franco will be getting left out, is The Orville.
Yeah, I was a bit of a fan after watching the pilot. I didn't force Jason. We get together every Friday night to play some cards. We play a game called Arkham Horror.
That finished.
It finished
suddenly
very
and
early. Finished very early when we failed utterly and all died. So we had some time to kill.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because you were talking big about how you were going to romp it in.
But we're talking big about how easy it was, how ridiculously simple.
There
we
were
have
two.
no challenge.
We may as well any Arkham Horror card fans, which there's got to be at least one or two now listening. Sure. There was two scenarios left to go, so we were playing the penultimate episode scenario,
and we thought we were doing Billy Big Balls.
We actually got off to a fairly heinous start.
Yeah.
Well done on the use of penultimate, by the way.
So to set the scene, You play this card game where you are sort of detectives investigating some strange goings-ons in
Occult
the town
happenings
of,
and things like
of
that.
Arkham. And so we were at the base of this hill,
Nothing to do with Batman.
chasing down a cult who were engaging in some weird, freaky chanting at the top of the hill. And we had to try and get up there, but every time you tried to get up the hill, you wound up going somewhere,
Taking the
a
wrong
different
path and
you
things
get
like that.
lost. Something was fucking with us, and we failed to get to the top of the hill. There was a lot of crazy sort of wolf men chasing us around.
One of our party members died. The party
Yep.
member, the survivor, run by our son and his dog.
Our son.
My son. Sorry,
I wasn't aware that I'd been adopted as his second father.
And then the two. My character on the verge of defeat, then decided to resign. Quickly bailed out
Ran
of the
away.
situation. That's it. I'm done. I'm out.
Leaving me to either face down the dogs alone.
Leaving the
run.
intrepid journalist Rex on his
Well,
own.
hold on. Was that a card action or you?
It was a card action. You
It
could
was,
leave.
it was
Yes.
a player decision and a
The
card
idea
action.
is in the game because if you're defeated, you're not necessarily dead, and you go on to the next scenario possibly with disadvantages. So rather than I knew there was another scenario after this, and thinking, okay, I will bow out at this point
rather than get injured.
rather than get more injured because I was already feeling
Looking
injured.
for unearned credit in the next scenario.
Yeah.
And then and Dean's character then also bowed out because he could see there was no future for him left alone in this situation. And it turned out if we bowed out at that point, then the
cultists
ultimate
finish
evil,
their chanting, summon some demon into the world, and we go insane.
we go insane, and the world ends as we know it, kind of thing.
So you
and
learned
begins-
a valuable lesson about trying to.
you don't
gain
get to play that
unearned
last
credit.
scenario. Yeah, the game does quite a good job of playing with your expectations and making sure that you cannot assume anything.
It really does.
Does a good job. Anyway,
Which thus
So that
set you up
finished
for the
early.
Orville.
So I decided to put on episode 2 of the Orville. There are 3 currently available. I had a couple recorded, and put the second one on. And it was a pretty decent little sort of story. It's very sort of standard sort of Star Trek-y.
I think my
Kind of
remark
moment.
was, I'm surprised they can get away with this without getting sued by Star Trek.
Yeah,
Because
the captain, the first officer get taken away, put in a zoo.
the sound design,
One of the young
set
lieutenants is in
design,
charge.
But it is a parody
music-
of Star Trek, isn't it?
No,
to some extent, it's not as satirical as I thought it was going to be.
yeah, it doesn't aim for laughs all the time. It does break up serious moments with laughs.
And as we found with the third episode, it definitely wants to delve into serious subjects.
Yeah, so
As
the,
well.
the second one was a pretty standard sort of Star Trek episode. The third one is possibly one of the best think pieces of Star Trek I've ever seen out, and it wasn't even on Star Trek. But it basically was around gender identity.
Yeah.
So there's this race of
Topical.
allegedly all male creatures who have been just lying to everyone because females are born, but they have them sex changed. But they're born infrequently.
Very infrequently.
So this one, the male character is an officer on the ship. He has a husband who, as it turns out, had been gender transformed from being a woman to a man. They have a baby together. They lay eggs.
And
There
at
was
the end
pretty
of the
gratuitous
second,
butt shots.
at the end of the second episode, everyone's going, congratulations on your new baby and all this kind of thing. And then they have a moment alone, the two husbands, and then they say, well, we have to, it's female and we have to
do something about it.
And you're left wondering at the end of the episode what that is. And then the next episode is about them getting the gender reassignment. They have to go back to their home world and get
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they fight with this. The captain doesn't want. They try and get the doctor on board to do the gender reassignment. She refuses. They go to the captain. They're like, "This is bullshit. This is part of our tradition." If you know, and they bring up circumcision at one point. Like,
And that was an interesting point,
Mutilation.
which I thought they glossed over a little
did.
bit. I thought they just completely glossed over. So the alien says, well, humans do circumcision, which is an unnecessary procedure on an infant without that infant having any say in it. Why do you allow that? And the doctor just actually the episode entirely just glossed over it.
Yep.
And did not answer that question at all.
But
then the main point, of course, is they go back to the
they go back to their home world. I can't remember the
world,
species they are.
and there's essentially a
Bit of a
legal
trial.
proceeding, a trial, as to because the one husband decides he won't force have the procedure.
After watching a Christmas cartoon with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer,
That was dubious.
he decides that perhaps birth defects can be advantageous. That was the funny part of the story. And so they end up sort of, disagreeing on the outcome. They go before a court of law and they Empire Strikes Back you with it. It ends on a downer. The they lose the case. The baby is forcefully sex changed, and you're left wondering about the consequences. It's really fucking good.
But they do talk about, and that's where you discover that they do have females born regularly. In fact, one of their
Greatest
well-quoted greatest writers is in fact female, and she just lives in exile kind of thing, and nobody really realised this. Anyway, it was a good episode. It was an interesting episode, and definitely a thinker. Well, as two cis white men watching this, thought it was a considerably good episode.
I was just like...
Rather progressive of you.
It was really good. It was really, really good all the way through. And then at the end, I think like 30 seconds before the end, I had this realization that, oh, fuck.
It's not going to go the way...
It's not going to go the way that they think it's going to go. And I was like, surely they're not going to forcefully sex change a baby. That would just be unthinkable. And then they do it. And you're like... And it just ends pretty much when that comes down. You're just left like, wow.
Welcome to the real world.
That was awesome. So I've gone from having sort of medium expectations for this series to now really, really, really looking forward to the
So it's interesting to see whether they're going to regularly touch on these sorts of topical subjects or whether just... Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely made its play to be more serious sci-fi than just a kind of background parody kind of sci-fi.
It really did. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they can do with the rest of the season. And Seth MacFarlane, who for me has had, pretty shaky attempts at getting things off the ground since, I guess, Family Guy, which on its own is pretty shaky at times.
And his own politics in some ways can be a little bit weird.
Yep.
And a little bit questionable at times.
But this was just like, wow, he's got the money. This is great.
Well worth checking out, The Orville. That's another one I'll be watching. And Franco has to catch up now because we'll be obviously talking about this on a regular basis.
It's a challenge I'm willing to accept.
Yep.
I love it.
You've got to stick with it till episode 3 though, because it gets progressively better. The first one's all right. The second one's good. Third one is great.
Yeah.
We also have the new Star Trek Discovery coming very soon.
Tonight.
Is it tonight?
Wait, it's the 24th. Is it 24th today? Sorry, it's tomorrow. It's tonight. It's 24th in America. It's out.
Don't want to wait any longer.
So really? Star Trek does not have that draw card for me.
Have you not watched the preview? The trailer? It looks awesome.
I think I've watched one a few months ago, but it just Star Trek does not. It may be good. It may be good. It's not something that...
Very much looking forward to watching it tomorrow night.
I want an explanation of why the Klingons don't look like Klingons.
We should find out when it's on Netflix.
But they've already had this question.
Watch tomorrow.
This came up in The Next Generation when they showed some old footage. Like I think it was a Trouble with Tribbles episode came up in The Next Generation. Oh, it was a Deep Space Nine. And Worf was there, and they're looking at the original Star Trek style Klingons, which look very human with just some Asiatic kind of features. And everyone turns to Worf and say, "What's the story?" And he goes, "We do not like to talk about this period in our history." So they don't even say anything. They don't really.
It comes up again in Enterprise.
Yes. Oh, okay. I haven't seen.
They explain it as they were genetically modified.
Yeah. So they stole a bunch of Khan Noonien Singh's super soldiers from the Federation. They found in like cryopods, and they took them and they did genetic engineering to crossbreed that material into the Klingons, thinking that was the future of the race.
That's interesting.
So they lost their forehead ridges for a while until they were like, "This is not the future of the race."
That's interesting because I'm going to geek out a little bit here. I've still got the
Brent
books.
Spiner was in that episode too.
I still got all the books for it. The Star Trek the role playing game. So back when I was playing D&D hard, back in my high school days, I also had this Star Trek role playing game.
So for someone who doesn't like Star Trek, you were playing Star Trek.
Oh no, I was a massive Star Trek freak.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why for some reason it doesn't have the same draw. But anyway, they also they drew on that because you could play Klingon characters in the role playing game, and they had human fusion and Romulan fusion as well as the hardcore Klingons, which is what the Worf style Klingons.
Yep.
And they addressed it by saying yes, they had cross sort of bred with and cloned with the humans and with Romulans as well. So there were Romulan style ones.
Well, because to Star Trek geek out, Blana Torres from Voyager is half human, half Klingon.
Yeah.
And in one of the episodes of either Next Gen or Deep Space Nine, where Worf finds out his father wasn't dead, he was kidnapped by Romulans. They go to some planet and they find crossbred Romulans and Klingons who have decided to just live in peace, even though the war is over, and they don't want to leave the planet because their kids are half caste.
So
no one will accept them.
it's strange. The role playing game that I bought 30 years ago,
Yeah.
something now, is actually still sticking with the canon as they're going with it at the moment. That's kind of
Well,
cool.
I was quite comfortable with the lore that DS9 established about Klingons, about how they looked and so forth. So I'm concerned about where Discovery's going. How they're going to explain it.
I mean, I'm interested to see what they do. I guess you have to accept certain aesthetic changes are going to happen.
I would consider this a radical change, though.
Yeah, it is.
If they're moving Star Trek away from all alien races are basically humanoid with different ridges on their forehead,
Yeah.
then
That was my favorite thing about the Orville, though, because there were. I even made the comment during the show because there were some races
blob.
that were clearly just purely the blob that
The
could
blob.
grow a giant penis.
that was kind of funny.
Yeah, there's plenty of ridiculous jokes.
There's more
in
where
this
that came from.
Then the other thing I noticed, I think it was the second episode, there was more hard drinking and drug taking than I've
yes.
seen in a whole series of
So
Star Trek.
okay, I'm going to geek out on the Orville a little bit now. So the lieutenant, there's the Deus Ex Machina is that all the senior officers are unavailable. Two of them are leaving. One of them's on an egg, and the most junior officer is left in charge of the ship. So immediately, of course, a crisis occurs. She runs off,
Gets some tequila.
and gets a shot of tequila. Takes a shot of tequila. Meanwhile, the ex-wife of the captain is also
Replicating pot brownies.
Replicating pot brownies. I'm going, okay, this show is definitely taking a slightly different turn to the regular Star Trek.
Yeah.
Where every now and then they might refer to Romulan ale, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that. The other thing I found interesting that I quite like, because Star Trek was always painting this idealistic future where humanity had overcome their base urges, and yet every female character wore either a catsuit or a miniskirt or something kind of ridiculous.
You got a problem with that?
Well, the Orville doesn't. Interestingly enough, the uniforms are the same. Men and women, they wear the same clothes, pants and pockets.
Tunic,
And
standard
also,
tunic.
the pants have pockets, I would like to point out as well, which for Star Trek is unheard of. They even save someone's life.
The next
with
generation uniforms were
pockets.
just entirely, just not practical.
Yeah, there's seatbelts.
At all.
There's seatbelts in their shuttlecraft.
That's true.
You
Did
know,
they make a joke of that?
yeah, they do.
Well, they make a joke and
comes in
they
handy.
use it. It comes in very handy.
And the other thing I thought was interesting, because things like the transporter obviously let you get out of ridiculous situations.
They don't have a
They
transport.
don't have it.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that always bugged me, the most recent Star Trek movie had it where they beamed into those stupid craft things, the drone ships, to try and take on the network, instead of just beaming all the pilots out into the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
Like
If you can do
if
that,
you
you
beam
can-
through, just take all the guys out.
I noticed-
It'll take a while. Sure, it'll take a while.
I
But
noticed they're still playing with a holodeck style thing,
yep.
which as long as they get, because, and I remember a good friend of ours, Andrew McDonald, used to tell me he liked Star Trek, but every time it was a holodeck episode, he'd just go, oh, for God's sake. Because it was like, this was an excuse for an anything goes period drama to happen. Something in Earth's history or something like that. And as long as they use it as a side gag or something like that, it's kind of cool. But
I mean, to be fair, in the original Star Trek of the 60s, they just landed on a planet fairly frequently that happened to be very, very similar to Earth at some point in its history. There were Chicago gangsters, or there were Nazis, or like... They, at least with the holodeck, they're like, oh no, it's a simulation. It's not just like another planet.
But I mean, and the holodecks come up a couple times, but it's clearly used as a recreational thing where, you know, there was Justin the Ogre.
Yeah.
Which was
Justin was awesome in the pilot.
Justin the Ogre. They were just doing, one of the characters was just having a sword fight with Justin.
Is that a tribute to George Takei's character, Mr. Sulu?
I don't know. Could be.
Was he shirtless?
No.
Okay.
No.
I think he was wearing samurai armor.
He was wearing samurai armor with the katana, and the Justin, of course, was
Well, that's
had a-
definitely
it
is a
had
had a
piss
big
take of,
axe.
George Takei's character. in
Well,
the
George
original Star
Takei
Trek, where he does-
was never in
fencer, though.
samurai
Fencing.
armor. He was normally shirtless when he was doing this. Oh my!
On other news, I've continued watching The Expanse.
Yes,
Really enjoying it.
I think it's
Still?
great.
I need to watch that. I've only watched the pilot.
It's
But
got
you didn't enjoy the series, did you? You didn't watch.
I didn't dislike it. It just didn't. The pilot didn't grab me a lot. But I do. The thing about The Expanse that concerned me initially, because it was on Sci-Fi, the American channel, and I very much loved Warehouse 13, and there was that Einstein Village one. I can't remember the name of the planet. the name of the show. There was a couple of shows on Sci-Fi that I've loved that buck the trend of being cancelled after the first season, but would get 3 or 4 seasons in and then get shit canned. So with The Expanse, I was like, I don't know if I want to commit to it until Sci-Fi maybe see it
I'm not
through
sure
to
what
it.
those ones are. This is based on a book series though, so I guess they got some material
Doesn't mean
to draw
Sci-Fi
from.
will actually finish it.
Yeah.
But it's been picked up by Netflix, so it's probably safe now. I
Yeah.
just haven't got around to watching it
But
again.
it's got a good mix of politics,
Yeah.
film noir,
Yep.
very much the gumshoe kind of.
I love that angle
yeah.
with I forget what his name is.
They were incidentally my favourite episodes of Babylon 5 with the security officer-centric sort of space detective stuff. I quite like those.
It's good, and there's a good bit of left wing politics in there for me. Keeps me interested.
I've just gone past the part where they spoiler alert, where they land on the space station where they've got those where they're doing all the research on
Tycho.
No, the other one where they had those guys hooked up to the machine who were doing studies, and the security only had paintballs in their guns.
Oh
Pellets.
right.
You've seen all of season 2.
Yeah. That one. That's the black site sort of lab,
the
wasn't
black
it?
site, yes. And I like the way the gumshoe.
Yeah. He's pretty badass, really. He's just
And I
like.
like the way that he explained why his actions when they weren't cheap.
So there's a character in there, which this guy, they're all debating. Everyone's going, should we can use him. You know, it's a little bit of that thing. Should we use the Nazis to develop rocket technology after the war? He just comes in, bang,
He answers that question.
he was evil and he needed to fucking die. It was like, okay.
But I love the line later on where he says, basically the reason I did it was because he was making sense.
Yeah, it made sense and you guys weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
I could see you weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's a good character. I like him.
Yeah.
But the only downside is it develops. It's hit a point where it hasn't gone bad, but it's introduced the plot element. I'm going like, okay, how are they going to use this? Because too many shows are out like this that have this kind of plot mechanic in there, and I'm going, they better have a good spin on it.
Is this the zombies?
Yeah, space zombies. Except they're not like zombies because they're essentially more like Borg, I guess. They'd be more like Borg.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Like
it's
Borg when they were good, or like Borg after Voyager got to the
Borg in that they're essentially controlled by a central intelligence.
Right,
Kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. So before they got shit.
But it's a great show. It's gritty. It's kind of they try to keep it kind of realistic as to what it might be like. You got that race like the Belters. They've lived in space. They've grown up in space for generations, and they've essentially adapted.
Not good at gravity.
They're not good at gravity, but in space, they'll go out and. I remember seeing a write-up where they were talking about the science behind The Expanse. And they're talking about how this idea of explosive decompression doesn't actually work that way. And they were saying one of the best shows that does it is The Expanse, where these guys might actually live for a few seconds out in space kind of thing, or even a minute or something like that. But, and Belters are just used to, like they might have to open their visor for a second or two to do something and then close it again and shit like that. It's really fucking cool. Yeah, it's a good show. It's a good show. I can't wait till the next season comes out. It must be, I don't know, probably got another 6 months actually.
I've also been enjoying the new trailers they're rocking out for the Punisher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fucking over superhero shows. I can't even get into. I haven't watched Iron Fist.
Apparently, yeah, Netflix The Defenders is the worst launch of a superhero show that they've had.
Because
I watched the first 2 episodes of The Defenders, and I
so
just wasn't getting
Jessica
into it.
Jones.
Yeah,
it's got
Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
And Iron Fist.
The one thing about it that is cool, and I will say that I really enjoyed, was the way it's been filmed. So to start off with, there's a red filter whenever you're looking at Matt Murdock or any of the Daredevil stuff. There's a yellow filter on the lens when you're looking at Luke Cage. There's a green filter for the Iron Fist and a blue filter for Jessica Jones. So when it cuts around, you have a rough idea whose story they're in, purely based on the way the light looks.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the cinematography of what they were doing, but the story was boring as shit, and only made it for 2 episodes.
It's average. I enjoyed seeing Sigourney Weaver back in the limelight. She played a great character.
Oh, she's in Defenders, is she?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I like Jessica Jones. I like Daredevil. Luke Cage started to lose me.
I really like Luke Cage.
I haven't even watched any Iron Fist.
Yeah, don't go anyway. I've watched it.
I liked Iron Fist.
I don't mind it, but yeah, I wouldn't be recommending it, people.
Yeah.
It's very cheesy. It's very, very light.
Too many superhero shows.
But yeah, I wouldn't be looking for Iron Fist for gritty.
Which is my
drama.
problem with The Expanse, because too many zombie shows. That's why I'm hoping that it handles it okay.
Yeah.
But
well, for me, this is I'm not sure I have enough time. So I have a hard time watching television. I play far too many video games, and so for me to watch a TV show, I usually can fit in maybe one or two tops.
Yeah.
So at the moment it's the Orville, and maybe I can fit in one more. Maybe
Clever Man is what you meant.
Yeah, well, Clever Man is the one I have to watch. But then there's a new Star Trek. It's like, do I really have time for both, or am I just going to binge watch Star Trek when it's done?
Yeah. You're gonna, when you get a little bit sick of Destiny 2 and decide you can spare a weekend for a Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm at that point. I'm out of stuff to do. So.
Oh, okay.
All right, chaps, we've really extended the douchebag.
It's a
filter
bumper
section.
show, Franco.
This is going to be just a TV commentary show, which
For the-
I don't mind necessarily.
yeah.
But
Tends to go that way.
for me, the big news this week is same-sex marriage survey.
Yep.
It's rolling on.
I got
and
mine in the post. I
got
filled it out
mine.
and put it in the envelope. In the
I
Did you fill out the other 4 people's that you arrived at your post?
no, they didn't. They've corrected the roll, which I heard there were many people getting like a ridiculous amount of extras, and I expected I would, but no.
My dad was trolling me and saying he was going to fill mine in for me and mail it in. Because I still have them as a mailing address.
Yep.
I'm going to summarise the no experience with 5 odd words, which is pretty much ramming it down our throats. That's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of whinging.
You think
from
they'd be a
the
little
no
more
side.
self-aware about talking about having something rammed down their throats, wouldn't you?
Yes, I
given the
saw it
subject,
on a thread that Dean was involved with, and I also saw it on a thread on an arcade site that I
think
follow.
I caught that thread just today. I had a quick, because I don't engage with Facebook very often.
I
and
do
think
enjoy
caught
that the way that they say is they're going to be petulant about their vote because it's been rammed down my
They don't
throat.
like people telling them what to do. No one's telling you what to do.
This doesn't affect you.
Well,
In
You know
any
what?
way.
Next
Yeah.
time we're going to bring in compulsory gay marriage just to piss you off.
I mean, the government are the ones ramming it down people's throat. This should be something that is not being. People shouldn't have to be involved with this. This should just be legal. Like, there's no reason.
Yeah.
But it annoys me.
But what I'm seeing on the forums is this gamut of people who are suggesting that I was totally open-minded about the vote until they rammed it down our throat. It's like, if you're putting that forward, I don't think you were really open-minded about going the yes direction, to be honest. If that's how petulant you are.
Yeah, with the thread on the Facebook page, what happened there? I saw a comment on someone I know on Facebook's post where they'd said that I've actually called it up. So they had written, Tony Abbott just hit the nail on the head. I've been advocating the same thing for yonks now. Allow the legal unification of same sex, but do not call it marriage. Also, people have the responsibility of joining two people should have the right to do so. Right, not to do so if it is against their beliefs. I've seen this over many years now where our traditional values are being changed and eroded, mostly by the lowering of such values. Is society any better than it was 30 years ago? In my eyes, no. So I respond to that by saying, equal but separate, ... like segregation. And then I said,
Internet exploded.
that's what you think is hitting the nail on the head, because to me, not only did Tony miss the nail, but he was trying to hammer it in with a wet noodle.
Not only that.
So then when I posted something on our Facebook, the individual in question felt that they should, have the right, and I'm okay with them commenting on that because I comment on their shit. Feel free to comment on stuff on our page. So that's where the ramming down the throat thing probably came from.
Right. The interesting thing is, no one can force another person to marry a couple. The Catholic, I didn't realize there was any legality involved there, because at the moment the Catholic Church can decide not to marry a couple if they want.
Yes.
Traditionally, you got to go and meet the priest, and the priest has to essentially say, "Yeah, okay, I'll marry you."
This happened to my parents.
Yeah.
So my mother was not a Catholic.
No one's going to force anyone to marry anyone else. It's. And when I say force someone to marry, no one's going to force a priest.
No one's
going to
ram it down your throat.
No one's going to force a
priest.
priest to marry a couple together. If he can decide not to do it, and they can go and find someone else.
The other thing to bear in mind, though, in Australia, we have a history of referendums failing. Most people don't even like being asked to vote on something, so it's sort of legitimate that some people would say, "I'm sick of being asked to do something." Like, they know that if you ask a question, there's a higher chance of it coming back no than yes.
We just have a nation of authoritarians, basically, who just want... Look, you're in that job. We expect you to make those decisions for us.
No,
And
I feel the same way. You are paid between $200,000 and $400,000 a year as a federal MP. Fucking do your job.
Oh, absolutely. Except that I don't quite trust. I do wish that they would just go ahead and hold the vote on this. I think having the plebiscite's weak.
That's cool.
And
It's not a plebiscite. It's a survey.
Sorry, it's not even a plebiscite. But like most, as you said, most Australians don't want to be asked about this. It's like, just get on with it. But they hold that opinion for almost everything. Whereas there's certain things I would like to be consulted on. But anyway,
it's interesting. You know, I think that direct democracy is actually probably quite dangerous to MPs. If you establish that we're willing to ask people at a postal survey about this piece of legislation, well then, why not other pieces of legislation?
Yeah.
direct democracy was being quite dangerous to one particular politician, wasn't it? This is a slight segue into perhaps
the Tony Abbott story.
yeah,
A little bit.
which doesn't really apparently has no connection to the marriage plebiscite
Well,
survey.
I mean, in Tony's defense here, all he knew at the time when he was talking to Ray on Radio 2GB was that he had been headbutted by someone who was wearing a badge that was pro same-sex marriage, who then ran off swearing. So, from Tony's perspective, maybe those two things are related. Someone comes up, says they want to shake your hand, does so, and then tries to headbutt you. Yeah, maybe you think, what did I do to offend him? Cast your mind back. I don't know. He was wearing a yes badge. Maybe that was it.
There is a narrative that the No campaign is trying to push that the Yes campaign is being aggressive.
Yeah. Well, perhaps you have to be a little bit aggressive in order to change something. So there's a certain amount of natural aggression in having to change a status quo, right?
I would say there's
current status.
I would say there's a healthy debate going on as opposed to an aggressive push by the Yes campaign. Aggressive is quite a strong
I
word.
saw-
I guess the
The-
Yes campaign could
the
say
Yes
they're
is
being
passionate.
significantly reactionary. The No campaign.
I saw some interesting stats though. These are American stats, but in 1976, something like 81% of people identified as being Christian of voting people. They were white and they were Christian. And now it's down to something like 26% of people who identify as being white and Christian in America. So these people very much feel their influence is diminishing over time. And they very much feel that, you know, maybe change is being forced upon them. They're also amongst the oldest voters they have in America. I think they're predominantly over 50 as well now. Like they're not being replaced. Christianity is dying out in America. It is being replaced by Spanish Catholics apparently, but it's still largely the white Christian is dying.
And Islam, of course, is growing in America as well.
Sure, why not? I don't have the stats on that. But
Just by statistics.
I mean, my stats come from the Daily Show.
It's just like as a percentage of the population, they're growing. So
yeah, I mean, in Australia, they're
and so
something
it's-
like less than 2% of the
yeah,
population.
it's not hard to grow from a very
there are
such a low.
slightly more Muslims here than there are gay people.
Yeah.
But they're viewed rather negatively by the same group of people. Largely, same group of people don't like them. But
The Venn diagram
yeah,
is strangely circular.
yeah, people who don't like the gays
And don't
also
like-
don't like the Muslims.
Yeah.
I don't know how the Muslims feel about the gays though. Maybe they're included in the not liking of gays
That's
as well.
true. That's true.
Maybe
There's some
they're okay
unfortunate crossover there.
But yes, no, our former PM, Mr. Golnier himself, was I thought it was interesting when he was headbutted. The immediate thought in my head was, fuck, Tony's a boxer, like, as a young man. If there was anyone in the political sphere I wouldn't try and pick a fight with, and I wouldn't pick a fight with any of them, but Tony would be like the last one. I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to get my ass kicked by a 60-year-old man. Like,
Wow, it's true. That's true.
He's in his early 50s, I thought.
I got no idea how old he is. But if any Australian politician was going to kick someone's ass, Tony could probably kick someone's ass.
Well, Tony did downplay. He really watered down how effective the headbutt was. So he didn't
He
want to
only
seem,
had a fat lip. Like he didn't look like
No.
He didn't have a broken nose or any bruising.
He really wanted to sort of portray that he took it on the chin like a champ.
Yeah.
It was a weak headbutt.
I mean, what was the name of the gentleman who did
Astrolabe,
it? Astrolabe.
the navigational
Did he-
tool.
I mean, if we're going to listen to his own words,
Yeah, I've got it here.
he
I've got
did
it here.
imply that he would rather have had a better go at that that headbutt.
particular individual.
He wasn't satisfied with the
headphone jack. All right, I'll try playing this. Frank, are you able to give me a thumbs up if this is working?
Yeah.
I was quite drunk. I saw Erica Betts and Tony Abbott walk towards the Mercury building, as I now know. I just saw them walk into Salamanca Square. And saw them walk back across the lawns and decided I'm never going to get the opportunity to headbutt that again. Sorry. Tony Abbott again. So I seized the moment.
Did you? Did it have anything to do with the same-sex marriage issue?
That was just purely coincidental, a friend. Like, I am on that side of what should not be an argument at all. I believe in human rights, and that's largely why I hate Tony Abbott, because he doesn't believe in any human rights. It has absolutely nothing to do with marriage equality. That was just coincidental that someone had stuck a sticker on my jacket. That was not what I was thinking about. I was thinking, there's Tony Abbott, I'm going to headbutt him.
Did you say anything to him at the time?
Not that I can remember. I asked to shake his hand, and I did. Yeah.
Do you remember his reaction or anything? How did the whole thing unfold in your memory?
No recollection. I believe that I would have walked away swearing, because I do a fair bit of that.
So your memory of it is pretty blurry?
Very, yeah. And not because I'm concussed or anything. But, yeah. Apparently I didn't get him well enough.
Did you hurt yourself at all?
No. Oh, hell no. No, I'm a little punk street kid. I've grown up headbutting my friends all my life. So
Tony Abbott said it wasn't a particularly good headbutt.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough for my liking.
What do you think now you're sober, now you've been arrested and charged? What do you think now? Do you regret your actions?
For the record, of course I do. I'm legally obliged to. I'm not going to help my case if I say anything different. Of course I regret it. I don't condone or believe in violence against humans.
Will you plead guilty when it happens?
I'm pleading guilty to minor assault charge.
Okay.
Yeah. If it were a human that it had been perpetrated against, I think it might have been more major, but yeah.
The same-sex marriage debate, that the Yes people are worried that your actions might backfire on their campaign because Tony...
I'm deeply embarrassed by that. It is, like I say, pure coincidence that I happen to have a Yes badge on. That is not an issue that was at the forefront of my mind.
The No campaigners today have been saying that this sort of gives more fuel to the fire for their No campaign. What's your message to them if you say you're in the Yes camp?
I say that they're just politicking. Of course, they're going to take this opportunity to use it as further fodder. I still think they have no logical or reasonable argument against marriage equality. I think they're just archaic, retarded imbeciles. I know that's not very PC, but they are. Last I checked, it's 2017, and love is love.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you, would you do it again, do you reckon?
Probably. I don't know.
Oh, well, so that was the interview there. Very entertaining.
Astrolabe, yes. Strange name.
It is. I would imagine that he acquired that name via deed poll change.
Maybe. Or maybe his parents would just thought it'd be funny.
So as we were saying off air, none of us believe that this is going to be a major political issue. There will be no street protests.
I thought it was interesting how Tony didn't report it to the police as well.
I think that's his brand, that he's not a sook.
Yeah,
he's not.
I mean,
he
mentioned on the radio, and then the police contacted him to say, "Did you really get assaulted?"
I mean, you can call Tony a lot of things, but he's not a snowflake.
No.
Well, and it's good. Tony knows his brand, and if he loves to play the macho image of, that's just the rough and tumble of politics.
I eat onions for fruit.
Yeah, so
that's how hardcore I am. And pussies eat apples. And I'm going to sit down and enjoy a nice, tasty onion.
This is a real easy one for him to take the high ground on. And he doesn't really take the high ground on many things.
Well, I mean, the other interesting thing, because this sort of parallels and counters, because Kevin Rudd's godson was assaulted for being pro same-sex marriage. He was bashed.
Oh, really?
Rather badly compared to Tony. So there's been violence now on both sides of the issue, which is how I think Tony's trying to spin it. It's not, the left are just as bad as the right.
One person
on this
gets seriously injured and another person quickly got a fat lip and the other guy ran away.
I mean, bear in mind,
but they're all equivalent.
This could have been worse. Could have been.
Yeah, I think I don't in no way. Whilst I find it very amusing, I no way condone what Asher did. I like the idea that politicians should feel safe to be approached in the street. I don't
know. When it comes to Tony, I think some physical injury, possibly by someone who's been directly affected by his policy, more likely. So not someone like myself. But maybe if this man had in fact been gay and had been about gay marriage, maybe...
Not that I'm casting aspersions, but you're both skinheads.
So are you.
I know, and as am I. But you say, someone not like myself. Well, he was just assaulted by someone a little bit like us. He's white.
And we have two
got a
diverse...
shaved head.
And even in this room, there's diverse opinions
He's well
on this
spoken.
situation. But what I'm saying is, on a scale of...
funny.
On a scale of 1 to punch a Nazi, like... Tony falls into the realm of where, he probably deserves some physical injury, but by someone who's been directly affected by his poisonous policies.
I don't like Tony, but I still don't think he's necessarily gone into the zone of deserving a punch in the chops. I believe he's still in the he should be shouted out very loudly in general whenever he's on the street.
I think when it comes
punching
to
in the chops, I think it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, look, I'm as much as I am on the yes side of allowing same-sex marriage, and I think it's the plebiscite is a waste of time. It's something that shouldn't even gone like this. There shouldn't even be a discussion. It should just be legalised. Tony does do a reasonable job of representing some Australians who have that view.
I'm not even talking necessarily about same-sex marriage. I'm thinking about anyone who's spent time on Nauru or elsewhere.
no.
Probably, but then again, then Rudd also deserves a punch in the chops. Which
Peter Dutton,
definitely.
Very punchable face. Someone should match that, Spud.
It's on a spectrum, is what I'm saying, and definitely Tony is on that spectrum somewhere. I don't think it's necessarily my place to punch Tony. That's the issue.
Yeah, I don't think violence helps. It's a precision tool.
It can be necessary at times. As I said, I don't think.
Look, if you find someone raping someone and you go to town and beat the rapist up, no one's gonna have a problem with the violence. But if you're drunk and you assault a politician in the street, people are going to be like, you're a dickhead. And he might come around and headbutt me too, but it's a fucking cowardly act to come up to someone and go, I just want to shake your hand, and then pull him in for a headbutt.
Yeah, once again, I'm not getting so exercised about this.
Well, I think it's a sad day for the debate when it's come to this point.
And look,
not that it should even be a debate.
As he was saying, it has nothing to do with that debate.
Yeah. Okay.
So, one thing I do fault.
He could just be in damage control right now.
One thing I do fault this guy with is if he's going to headbutt Tony, he better be able to articulate a reason.
Yeah.
Not just.
Well, he did, and his
poisonous politics. In general.
I'm never going to have the opportunity to headbutt that cunt again, so I seize the moment.
Well, let's also bear in mind, we talked about violence being a precision tool. Headbutting someone's not a precision tool. You can, fracture their eye socket. You could break their nose. Yeah. You can do some serious injury. As opposed to a punch in the gut, which is just uncomfortable, but, no one's going to...
Yeah, once again, right. Tony's policies have done violence on people.
I know.
So I'm not getting exercised at all about
I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but what I'm suggesting is it's very hard to control that sort of political statement.
It is. And you know what? I think, what's a better way of handling a political statement?
Pie in the face?
Well, that was pretty good.
Glitter bomb?
But did you guys see Cory Bernardi's tweet this week about the Do It in Address?
Yes, I'm glad we're talking about this.
Movement that one of the schools have put up.
This is the way you embarrass a politician.
$900, I might add. Cory Bernardi drew attention to this school who were offering casual dress or the ability to wear a dress for a day for a gold coin donation. And Cory
for a literacy program in Africa.
Yeah, Cory highlighted this as being gender morph.
The thin edge of the wedge.
Absurd. There has now been $180,000 raised for that charity. Awesome. I think an early amount of $2,000 came from Josh Thomas, the comedian and actor, this guy from that show Please Like Me, which was fantastic, and a bunch of other stuff as well. Famously gay and very funny. and led the charge here against Corey Bernardi, who now has indirectly championed the cause for same-sex marriage and homosexual rights.
I almost donated myself just because I disliked Corey Bernardi so much, but I'm quite a tight ass. So
there was a photo of Corey Bernardi at the No campaign launch, and 2 seats down from him was Andrew fucking Hastie, sat there looking like a cunt.
Looking like a cunt. You might want to headbutt in
No.
case you missed the chance.
He's a trained killer. You probably
Yeah.
wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, he's SAS, Jason. If there's anyone I want to headbutt less than Tony Abbott, it's Andrew Hastie, because he's young, fit, and a trained killer.
Yeah, he brings a brand of politics I really find offensive.
Well, I'm most annoyed by the fact that when he was up for election, he was like, "It's not about religion. You know, it doesn't matter that my dad is a minister. I'm not going to talk about my personal religion because that doesn't affect my politics." Until it fucking does at every vote he gives. He was in the fucking... Who's the stupid same-sex marriage debate they had? Cooper's beer pulled the thing. He was in that debate.
Yes. He's also, his wife's also American, who subscribes to that flavour of evangelical Christianism about, you know, being very against abortion, all that sort of flavour of American Christian politics.
Right, yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting he's necessarily influenced by that, but I wouldn't be surprised by the same token.
They probably share some amount of morals. You know, generally, people don't marry someone who completely represents the opposite viewpoint. It's uncommon. It's uncommon. Normally, you have a few things in common with your partner, and your morals and ethics.
You don't see too many communists and Nazis sharing a bed too often, unless it's a one-night stand.
How many members of the KKK married someone from the Black Panther Party? I'm thinking none.
It's interesting. In both of the cases of Andrew Hastie and Corey Bernardi, who both have seen a significant part of the world in all its shades of grey, go and see all that, learn about the realities of the world, come back and go, yeah, I'm going to dismiss all that and pretty much go back to confirmation bias.
Well, I mean, it's not like I always like to think, you always seem to think that mostly we're in a forward progression of progressive politics. But Brazil itself only just passed the law recently calling, in this week, classing homosexuality as a disease.
Oh, did they now?
Yeah.
Oh, they've gone backwards.
Yeah, they've gone backwards as well. So, I mean, there is very much 2 steps forward.
Maybe they're offended by the way that the Mardi Gras has been co-opted away from them.
When I saw the news, I thought it was so weird because I thought Brazil actually was quite progressive on those matters.
No, not at all, my friend.
Well, I naively assumed they were as well, but maybe not.
Having never been to Brazil,
No.
I have been to other parts. Well, I took part in a gay rights march in Chile when we were there.
Was that accidentally or intentionally? Yeah, because
I'm wandering around the scene and then I'm going, what is this massive amount of people that is forming up? And it was like a travelling parade.
I feel like you were like, oh, protest!
I was in on that shit. Yeah. And it was huge. It was massive.
Get in there marching. I don't even know what I'm
And
here
there were
for.
just mobile sound stages with essentially concerts going on
Yeah.
these sound stages. It was fantastic.
Which is a good signal that it's not going to be some sort of Nazi or white aggrievement parade.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, we were in Chile, we saw that, and then it was like, I saw that, and then I think it was the next day where we had our own little run-in with the riot cops.
The student protests.
The student protest that was happening. That's where I got that picture that's on the BAP Twitter page.
being filmed, yeah.
I was telling that story today to my folks as we walked out of our hotel into a little mall. A sea of students were just bolting towards us.
And a high-pressure water cannon was firing water over the top.
I literally jumped behind a little tobacco stand to sort of avoid whatever this onslaught was going to be.
Wow. I had no idea what it was. But it was interesting. I mean, Chile's just a pretty politically charged kind of place. It seems to always be, doesn't it?
Mm. Well,
that's hearing news from there.
You know, both Chile and Argentina have gone through dictatorships, so they've got a history of doing street protests and so forth, protesting that. So it's
okay.
Did you guys also see? I'm going to stay on the same-sex marriage thing. One more story.
Yep, by all means.
This is the one that actually made the BAP this week, which was Margaret Court, former Australian tennis great. A woman who still has a fucking major sporting institution named after her, and vocal opponent of marriage equality. She came out to say that if the same-sex marriage vote comes back as a yes, that Christmas would be cancelled this year.
Is she cancelling it? Or?
I'm not sure she has the authority to cancel Christmas.
I feel like she must have lost a few matches to a gay tennis player or something at some point in her career, and just she seems to be
I mean,
She seems so opposed to this, which is like she's just come out of the. Who's heard of Margaret Court in such a long time, and then suddenly the same-sex marriage issues come up, and she's out there, making noise about it.
I mean, to be fair, maybe
you're always being far too fair.
Maybe because I'm pretty anti the idea that Christian holidays are given public holidays in Australia and other religious holidays are not. I feel like everyone should get 10 days leave they can use a year
for whatever
they want. And if I want to take Easter and Christmas, that's fine.
Pastafarianism,
but
whatever.
you can use them how you want. I feel like that's a fair. Like, I'm not taking Christmas away from you. I'm taking Christmas away from me because I don't celebrate it.
No, I hear. That's
but at the same time, if people want me to take December off, okay, it's summer. It's a great time of year to have time off. I just don't celebrate, a co-opted Roman fucking holiday for Sol Invictus. I don't celebrate any of I don't recognize the Roman pantheon. I don't really recognize the Christian pantheon. I don't celebrate those holidays. I would rather have days off when I want to have days off.
That sounds fair.
Yeah. Anyway,
she's getting a lot of air time for someone who's very irrelevant to politics.
Oh no, man! She was complaining in that same article about how she was being vilified in the media and had no opportunity for recourse, except obviously through a national paper with which this article was published to defend herself. Yeah. So maybe she feels like she wants more airtime.
I don't think the problem is that Margaret Court is not getting enough exposure. I think she's getting plenty of exposure.
Yeah,
and she's definitely getting the opportunity to get her point across. Yeah.
Well, as much as
she just doesn't have any point. She doesn't have a point.
See, there are people on the left, like our good friend Astrolabe, who I'm not saying I don't want on the left with me, but they don't help necessarily the cause. And maybe Margaret Court is like that for the right wing folks, where they're like, "Thanks, Marge, you're not really helping. You kind of could you just? I'm not saying shut up.
Well, because
I'm just saying like
her arguments are as incoherent as a headbutt to Tony Abbott.
Yeah, well,
I mean they probably are.
Yeah. Like, you're cancelling Christmas. Who and why?
What are you talking about?
And how would a gay marriage... What, is the celebration for the first gay marriage going to be so massive that everyone's just like, well, I couldn't possibly have pudding. I'm too stuffed from the gay marriage we all went to.
This has been the whole strategy of the No campaign in general, is that they don't want to argue the specific issue of should same-sex... Should LGBT people allowed to be married? They want to argue the slippery slope arguments. If you allow this, then X, Y, and Z will happen. And that's what they've been strongly
cats and dogs.
To be fair,
all of a sudden you'll have gender fluidity education in schools.
But I mean, they've been doing this since the 50s with Lavender Panic. This is not new. This has always been their argument. It's just start associating homosexuality with pedophilia and like communists
and lavender apparently.
Like, well, it's a fucking term from I can't remember.
I know.
Like I didn't make it up.
No, I know. I understand.
And I've had all these thrown in my face today. The whole
lavender. You've had lavender thrown in your face.
Well, not lavender.
Damn it! Why must they smell so pleasant?
Lyle Shelton's three main arguments at the moment, which is think about the children, what they're going to be taught in school. Yep. What were the other two?
I don't know.
Forget. But anyway, I had all three of them thrown back at me today.
I think it was probably about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and then safe schools. They seem to be Lyle Shelton's three key points.
I had the children one, all the angles of the children one thrown at me.
But I mean, who listens to the Australian Christian Lobby? Just for anyone out there who doesn't know who Lyle Shelton is, the head of the Australian Christian Lobby.
Yeah, but he's not. Their campaign's not being lobbied under the ACLU. It's very what is it? Families.
Yeah, but he's still very much the head of the Australian Christian Lobby.
Yes, indeed.
He's just doing it as a not connected to that. I guess he doesn't want to be connected, but it's the same. It's the same people, same organisation largely.
Yeah, I think they feel they have a broader reach if they untether the Christian aspect to. They just want to say they really want to champion the "we don't want change" angle, which resonates with a lot of Australians.
It does. So, have anyone else got any stories in this front? Because I want to move on.
The only other thing that I noticed that was interesting was to see. Do you remember Kaepernick, the NFL player in America?
Colin Kaepernick,
who was taking a knee during the anthem to protest.
Because this has really kicked off in the States just at the moment.
Black politicians, black people, and it's really kicked off again because Trump has tweeted. So apparently, I don't know if it was the NBL or the NFA.
NFL.
NFL.
Oh, and sorry, it was LeBron James, I think.
It was basketball players.
It was a basketball player that spoke up, yeah.
So Trump went on the warpath against highly paid and highly beloved sports players by tweeting this. If a player wants the privilege of making millions of dollars in the NFL or other leagues, he or she should not be allowed to disrespect our great American flag, in brackets, or country, and should stand for the national anthem. If not, you're fired, in bold capitals. Find something else to do.
I saw there's a couple of interesting tweets around this. And
That's
one
another one of stop ramming it down my throat, though.
Yeah.
It's just a white guy's reaction of I don't want to have to think about this.
Yes.
No,
No mention about why they're taking a knee.
there was someone tweeted something to the effect of, "I didn't fake an illness to avoid the draft." Quoted anonymous.
Well, that's
so that someone could disrespect the flag, and then just quoted anonymous.
Yeah, I mean, it's really rich for Donald Trump to get up on the
So
soapbox.
the background is
soapbox on
Colin
these issues.
Colin Kaepernick was the NFL quarterback who was famously was taking a knee and during matches basically to protest the treatment of African Americans by American police mainly, but in general just calling attention to various things. And he was delisted because he was a free agent, so his contract came to the end and he hasn't been picked up.
Yeah.
Now, the amusing thing is, apparently the state of the quarterbacks in the US is currently so bad. The quality of quarterbacks is so bad. This guy's actually pretty good. And everyone's going, there's almost no way that he couldn't almost be a starting quarterback, definitely to being a backup quarterback. So the fact that he is getting picked up by any other team is just so blatantly like all the white owners deciding that they don't want this guy.
They don't want to touch the issue.
They don't want to touch this guy.
Okay, to play counterpoint on this,
As you all want.
as I often do.
Let's be fair, Let's be fair, Dean. Let's be fair to the white millionaire owners of these teams.
What I'm going to say is, if you are an employee representing a business, because this happened recently where a woman who was in childcare lost her job here in Australia when she was sharing the fact that she was going to vote no for the marriage plebiscite, even though she was working for a company that had gay clients. If you are representing a business and you say something counter to the message that business wants to portray, then there are repercussions.
Absolutely,
in your job.
Dean. But no one is giving this as a reason as to why they won't pick Colin Kaepernick up.
No
one's giving that as a reason. They're saying he's just not good enough, and everyone's pointing to the statistics and going, no, he clearly is good enough.
Yeah,
there is a reason why you're not picking him up, but you don't want to say it.
Yeah, no, and I think what they're saying is we don't want the controversy that comes with him.
So basically, they support the oppression of the black population.
No,
by the
they
don't want to. No,
police.
but
they don't want to be. They don't want their brand associated with.
They don't want to. They don't
at
want to
all.
say that. The funny thing is, the number 7 jersey is the highest selling 49ers jersey. Colin Kaepernick's jersey from last year.
Yeah.
So he is getting the popularity is not an issue. So, but you're right. It's very polarizing. I was watching looking at some comments, and just people like there was an excellent cartoon where you got a white American pointing at a black sportsman taking a knee and going, "That's offensive," and behind him is a dead unarmed black American, like labeled unarmed black American. Dead behind him, and he's pointing at the guy saying that's offensive, and it's like that's kind of what it is. Everyone's pointing out the fact that this guy might be taking a knee and saying this is just so outrageous, and yet totally ignoring the reasons
I don't think
why
it's
they're
offensive.
doing it.
I think they don't want to be associated with the brand. The other thing that's interesting about the NFL is that unlike other sporting leagues, it's more of a cooperative. So all of the clubs get equal shares of all the profits. So it may not be the individual clubs don't want to take him. They might not be allowed to take him because the league might be like, no, we don't want this associated with our brand at all. So the NFL is more. It's like a communist.
I feel like that would be a story that would have come out if they'd.
No, not necessarily. They don't want their brand being associated with that either. No, I'm just saying it could be something about the NFL themselves.
It could be the fact that they're It's something like 49 white owners and white male owners or something like that. Yeah, it's.
Well, no.
Anyway, it is
true.
interesting. LeBron James came out, and what was it?
I think some of them have got investments from Saudi Arabia.
There's a tweet from LeBron James which is quite good, I think.
Yeah, I think a very famous the first basketball player to get signed a $200 million contract. What, Stephen Curry? Steph Curry, who is generally conservative in terms of his politics. Well, he's not conservative in terms of his politics, but very conservative in how he presents himself. Doesn't really get caught out with comments. But this is the one issue where he's come out to speak up against, or about these guys taking the knee, or no, in particular about. No, he had his invite from the White House taken away because he was on the championship team, and LeBron came out to comment about that.
Yeah, right.
Because Stephen
I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, it's also something that's happened before. I remember there's a famous photo with one of the Australian sprints. I think he won the bronze medal, and the gold and the silver went to two black American athletes, and they're doing the Black Panther salute. I think it's fine. I think, and we've had Kathy Freeman here, like running around with the Aboriginal flag instead of an Australian flag, or maybe she ran with both. I forget. I have no problem with sports people using their position to call attention to things that they're passionate about.
But
I'm not running the league. Nor
it
am
is
I running the
amazing
team.
what, like you're saying, they don't want to associate their brand with this controversy yet.
Well, I mean,
they're hiring other people that have been literally they've been convicted of domestic abuse.
Yep.
Dog fighting.
Yep.
Any number of other things. Yet they're quite happy to associate their brand with that kind
look
of thing.
at within Australia, we just had the AFL come out and associate themselves with the Yes campaign, much to Sam Newman's disgust. But they changed the AFL logo on AFL House to a yes. They ended up taking that down. I think by the end of the day, they pulled that down. But a lot of the clubs came out and in support of that.
Yeah, there were 8 or 9 clubs who supported it.
Yep, Collingwood is one of them. Good old Collingwood. Even though we've had people like Hertia Lumumba leave because he says the club is not friendly to homosexuals. But the club has come out publicly in support of it. Hawthorn did not. Carlton did not.
Dockers did not.
They both gave a statement saying that while they stand for all forms of equality, they don't feel it's their position to associate their brand with any kind of political issue. They got pillared for that in the media. The Dockers did not. I think West Coast didn't either.
No, they both took a neutral, what they considered a neutral position.
Yeah.
Took a knee.
So
standing out of this one.
And I mean, I think I would be. I think the Queensland clubs didn't either. So in states where conservative sentiment runs strong, Western Australia and Queensland, obviously these people are trying. I don't know what they're trying, not to offend people or something. But I'm just saying that sometimes sporting clubs take a position.
Sometimes they're just racist cunts that don't want to employ the people that are standing up for black rights. Sometimes that's it, Dean. Yeah. Sometimes that really is it.
Okay, no. Sometimes maybe that's what's going on.
I mean, you can be fair or you like, but sometimes they're just being cunts.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that people aren't cunts. People are cunts all the time.
Yeah.
What I am saying,
and sometimes that's the safe assumption to make.
We don't know necessarily the reason. But I think it's interesting. It's something to watch. And I imagine it will change over time as they get more and more desperate for quarterbacks.
Well, everyone's been making the point that, and it's funny because some of the other news shows, like the Young Turks, have done some incredibly detailed analysis of this, and they're saying how the fact they're actually injuring themselves in not. The quality of the football this year has been so low that it's been laughable, they reckon, at some points. It's crazy.
One quarterback is unlikely to fix that.
No, definitely not. But the fact that's just it's come at a time where they go, well, clearly they're not hiring Kaepernick because of his lack of skill.
It's interesting though to see Donald Trump, former overpaid celebrity, getting involved at calling out other formerly overpaid celebrities on having a political opinion when he's now the president and sharing his political opinion.
Yes. Someone who's still unwilling to reveal his tax file returns.
Can't reveal him if there's nothing to reveal, Frank. Can I segue off on Trump? Because that's what I'm trying to set up here. So my favourite story this week was the ongoing war of words between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. America is sought to impose further sanctions on North Korea, not going through the UN this time, just doing it themselves. So anyone who does business with or ships that dock in North Korea or trades with in any way, they're no longer welcome in America. So if your business is, if your bank happens to deal there or your ship docks there, for 6 months you're not allowed to do business in America, which I think is fairly fucking heavy. And then Trump made a famous little nickname up for Kim Jong-un, calling him Little Rocket Man. And then the North Koreans have responded by labeling Donald Trump the Lying King, which I think is fucking genius.
You know what?
Dropping truth bombs.
You know the interesting thing that came out with Kim Jong-un's response?
Personal response.
Is that he made it.
Yeah.
Because that's never been done before.
Yep. Normally
it's done by the state apparatus, and it's never been done personally by the leader of North Korea. So it's kind of interesting because it's now egos directly getting involved.
Yeah.
and who knows? I mean, these are both egos in control of nuclear weapons.
It seems that way. I mean, there was another earthquake in the region of North Korea just recently, this week. South Korea has come out and asked them both to just chill the fuck out. Not their exact wording, I admit.
But we can read
but the
between the
implication
lines.
there is, could you both just calm the farm and stop threatening to nuke people?
If you're willing to read between the lines, it's calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
They're
Seriously, we're not willing to die over
They
this.
are the ones that are they're the ones that got the most to lose in this situation.
Yeah.
America's really not going to suffer. North Korea would probably suffer. It's interesting that Trump's statement was that he would destroy North Korea. So, which is basically premeditating a war crime.
Yeah,
I'm
genocide.
not entirely sure how he's going to do that, though.
I mean, you drop enough munitions on there, you're going to kill a lot of people.
Yeah,
They
but-
did that.
Yeah, I know that, but they would still.
They did it in the Korean War. It didn't work.
It may not whether it wins the war or not doesn't matter.
They dropped more
it's gonna
bombs
kill.
on North Korea than they dropped the entire Pacific Theater. They destroyed in excess of 75% of the buildings in Pyongyang.
And they killed millions of people.
Destroyed, not like damaged. They were just gone. They had to rebuild.
And they killed millions of people.
It
I mean,
didn't
that's
do
the
anything. It didn't make North Korea come
No
to the
one's
table.
saying the Americans can win a war. They haven't won one in about 50 years.
I don't
Yeah.
think China and Russia are going to allow America to start dropping bombs on, next to their borders.
China has already said that if America starts it, they will come to the Koreans' aid.
Yeah.
But if Korea starts it, they will not. Which I think is fair. If you fucking start something, I haven't got your back. But if someone starts something with you, I'll back you up. It's like, everyone has that one friend who's a bit of a dickhead. And you're like, mate, don't fucking start shit.
Don't you start
Because
shit.
I'm not getting in a fight that you start tonight. But if someone starts messing with him and he didn't do anything wrong, you're like, well, I got your back, bro. But anyway.
It's like Israel's relationship with America. Israel will be all belligerent and talk shit. Like talking smack at their various people around them, dropping bombs on Damascus airports, as they did recently, and that knowing no one's going to touch them because they got Big Bro behind them.
Yeah, they do. Big crazy bro.
Big crazy bro. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like America's not against
So
firing
in this
missiles at Syrian airports.
So in this
anyway.
situation, but I mean, Israel taking direct action like that's fucking crazy. But in this situation, China is more rational than America.
China.
Absolutely more rational than America.
Why is Australia inserting themselves into this issue?
We owe,
That's what I wonder.
Malcolm owes Donald a favour. I reckon this is probably the favour he's calling in.
We had some. Oh, really?
Remember that phone call that got?
Yeah, well,
they
we've
leaked the
had-
transcript, and Malcolm was like, "I'll owe you one, and you can call." I reckon this is
We've
probably
had
one of the
some
ones he owes him.
refugees come in from America, so
No, but they haven't taken him out yet. They're going to review them, remember, and then they can take as many as they want, as little or as many.
just
and they
on
haven't
that
taken one
situation,
yet.
the fact that Australia seems to have its cock up America's ass, such that we enter every war that they join in.
It's the other way around.
Does this mean? Does this mean Australia has?
They thrust, we yelp.
So Australia, the longest war Australia's ever been in is the Afghanistan war. We've been
Of
there
recent
for
times.
the same length of time as the Americans, haven't we? Or technically, are we not at war with Afghanistan? Are we not at war in Afghanistan as well?
Well,
I
we're
don't
not, we're not at war with Afghanistan at the moment.
Well, they still say America's longest war is the Afghanistan war that they're currently in.
It's an occupation.
Whether they call it a war or whatever they call it, like a police action, everyone's come across it. Vietnam was a fucking police action. They call it now a war for what it was because that's
no,
what it
they
was.
still call it police action.
Do you refer it as the Vietnam police action?
No. Colloquially, it is referred to
It
as a
was the
war,
Vietnam War.
but America does not acknowledge it was a war.
So basically,
because
Australia.
Congress has to approve a war, Jason.
So Australia
and they
has
never
been at
approved it.
war for the same length of time as America in
No.
Afghanistan.
And again, Congress has to approve
So-
a war. They didn't ever get involved.
Yeah.
This is not a war. This is a police action.
So we've been in the longest police action of any war.
Yeah, maybe.
But we've been there as long as the Americans, all right?
Yeah.
And we're still there.
Yeah, we
we still
sent
have
our
act-
best and brightest. We sent Andrew Hastie.
We still have active troops over there, don't we?
Yep.
And Iraq as well, yeah. Okay. Just thought I'd clarify that. Are we done?
I think that's a wrap.
Sure, we can wrap it up there. I'm through all my little notes.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I've been Franco.
I've been Jason.
I am not the Lion King, but it's the best joke of the week.